All right, guys, we're live. This is the Difference Makers podcast. My name is Justin Tamani. I'll be your host today. Today we have with us Rob and Lizzy Carson. So Rob is the Engine by Carson coach, the programmer. He's also the endurance coach for Underdog Athletics. And we also have with us Lizzy Carson, who owns Concept Fitness in New York and is the 2021 Masters Games athlete. So welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So we were talking a little bit before we started recording here. We were talking about how we got into the space and how you guys want to make rowing a bigger part of your community locally. But I want to hear about you guys first, and then we'll get into some of that stuff after. But tell me about your backgrounds and how you guys got into the CrossFit space, and coaching these things. Rob, let's start with you, maybe.
Yeah, so I was actually a New York City police officer for almost 10 years. I got injured on the job. And when I was injured, I grew up playing ice hockey, surfing, a lot of stuff that you would actually need your hips for. And I suffered hip injuries on the job. And I had a buddy who owned a CrossFit gym who was trying to talk me into coming there. And I thought that was crazy. I'm like, I'm injured. How am I going to do CrossFit? But he was like, no, we have rowing machines, bikes, there's always something you can do. So eventually I took him up on it and I went in, basically fell in love with the rower right away because I was a big endurance athlete growing up, swimming, running. And I needed something that, I could keep that competitive edge, and rowing was it because there was no pain, zero impact. So fell in love with that right away. And then I felt, I saw there was kind of like a need for it in CrossFit to coach. Not many athletes were taking the rower that seriously. And I saw that there was something there. And actually, that's how I met my wife. I reached out to her on Instagram, telling her I could help her with her rowing.
Hey, your rowing technique does not look good.
It actually wasn't.
Start here.
I have to defend myself. Like, I kind of felt like I was a good rower. I was like, oh. But I never turned down help. So, like, anyone that's like, hey, I'm an expert in this, I was always like, let's go. I want to learn more about it.
Awesome. So, and then Lizzy, what was your background kind of starting out within the space?
I actually got into CrossFit pretty late. I didn't start CrossFit until 2013. And I was able to make regionals that year without having an athletic background. So unlike Rob, I didn't play sports growing up. I'm from Oceanside, and I was like, I guess I found it cool to like not be cool, like not. I didn't play sports. I was just like wasting it away. So later on in life, I have 2 girls, and I enjoyed working out. So I joined a local CrossFit and fell in love with it.
And you said you made regionals in 2013, like your first year of being within the sport. And that's crazy to think about that in 2013, somebody who's like really fresh, just started the sport, made, to one of the highest levels of competition. That does not happen anymore.
No.
That does not happen like that anymore.
It has changed.
Yeah. And so, Rob, when you reached out to Lizzy about the rowing and kind of some of the things you wanted to help with, were you already coaching rowing athletes at that point, or were you coaching CrossFit athletes at all at that point?
I was helping out a little bit at the gym I was going to. We were going to separate gyms at the time, but nothing official. Like, I wasn't coaching a class yet. It wasn't until I met Lizzy that I actually started coaching a class at her CrossFit facility she was in.
Okay. And then when did you guys open, or Lizzy, when did you open Concept Fitness?
In 2019.
Okay. So you'd been in the space for a while.
I had like a small pilot program where I rented a space from a spinning studio. So the spin studio was in the back, and then there was an open studio in the front, 10 rowers in the front, and we outgrew the space very quickly. So then I was on the hunt to find a larger location and on the water, because I really wanted to offer on the water rowing crew. Yeah. So opened the space in 2019. And then last year during COVID, we expanded into the yard, built the docks, and now we're on the water as well.
That's so cool, because that's not something that people get an opportunity to do, especially in the CrossFit space. I know there was Strength in Depth a couple years ago where they rode, I believe it was a 500 on the water.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of remember that. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, I think
they had the pontoons on the side, obviously, so the boats didn't flip over.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I remember it being in London or in the UK somewhere, and it was
yeah, rowing's big in the UK.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the first time it's ever come up in a CrossFit competition where it's been on the water. So.
Yeah,
should be more.
So, I mean, you guys have Concept in the name, and Concept 2 is a very huge company within the endurance space. Is there any connection with Concept 2, or is it just
no? Like we're not affiliated with Concept 2, okay. But our whole philosophy behind the gym is influenced by the Concept 2 machines. So we have all Concept 2 machines, rowers, bikes, and skis. So that's the foundation of our program. And then that is mixed with strength movements. So it's strength movements and then the conditioning using all Concept 2 machines. So huge influence, and we're friendly with them. They know how much we love and respect and how much they've influenced us for sure.
Awesome. And before we, Lizzy opened the gym, that's, when Engine by Carson was born, like I was training a few athletes, and then Lizzy was like, you need to, do this for more people. We need to help more people with this. So, Engine by Carson helps in the ski, the bike, the rower, running, swimming, anything you could think of endurance wise. But Lizzy pushed me towards doing that, and I'm very happy she did.
Awesome. I want to hear more about the program.
Yeah, so, we have a couple different options with the program. We have a private Facebook group that, people will post their results because the community is huge, obviously. That's one of the main reasons we do it. And then Lizzy also offers like a stroke analysis too for your ski, for your row. She'll help you, with the form, which, not a lot of coaches have the time or, the ability to do. And we do. So Lizzy's huge on that.
Well, the form is really important. And a lot of programs refer to conditioning and endurance work as like what do they call it?
They call it like bitch work.
Recovery. Yeah.
Or like active recovery.
Yeah.
And they just think time on the machine itself is going to make you better. And I disagree with that, because I think that if you're not mindful about pacing and mindful about your form, then you're actually wasting your time and that you're increasing your risk of injury. So I like for people to approach the program with mindful intent, hitting certain numbers, hitting negative splits, controlling your pace, and having your form be the most important part. So when somebody onboards the program, I usually try to get them right away to do a stroke analysis so I could see what they're doing. Most of the time it's free. I just need to see what's going on over there, because in CrossFit, Olympic weightlifting, and a lot of these other movements, people focus so much on form. It's so important. You would never see them do this ugly snatch at a high level competition. But the rowing that you see at high level competition is cringeworthy because no other program other than ours pays attention to the form.
Yeah, that's very true. I think the number of times I've had coaches address my rowing form has been very, very minimal, other than just, here's a couple little quick tips, like let's fix this. And I've had a few friends who are rowers, and we actually had a rower on the show, Liz. She was with I'm gonna mess this up, but she rowed at an Ivy League school in the States. But the form was something that was so brushed over. Like push, pull, go back, don't move around too much, you're good. But paying attention to that and then having the minute details figured out or worked on with your coach is a very important thing.
Yeah, it is. It's super important. And it's like these little adjustments that you can make, like, especially for a CrossFit athlete, like that's where I really found like my niche was like, there's a ton of rowing coaches, there's a ton of swimming coaches, running coaches, but I found that like I could do all of them and I could help, a CrossFit athlete, especially like my wife, for instance. She was, my test dummy. We would change all these things and, help out all this endurance stuff. And I taught her about pacing on the rower because, to her defense, she was a good rower before we met. She was pulling these ridiculous numbers, but she wasn't realizing what that number was doing to her the rest of the workout.
Yeah.
I wasn't like optimizing my recovery.
Yeah.
So if it was like, let's just say like 5 rounds of like 500-meter row and like 20 pull-ups, 10 clean and jerks kind of thing.
Yeah.
That row pacing is significant.
Exactly. She might have been like smoking her lower back because she was just leaning in and, whipping back as far, and
I would have to rest before doing the pull-ups.
Yeah.
Where once we optimized the stroke and I figured out what pacing was all about, I was able to go a lot faster throughout the entire workout rather than just on the rows.
Yeah.
Kill myself on them,
How did you find your endurance training and the engine program that you've been doing? How did that impact some of the couplets and some of the combinations and movements that came up in the quarterfinals, the semifinals, or the qualifiers? Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
All that I did before the games this year was endurance training.
Yeah, I actually tricked her into the CrossFit.
I wasn't going to do the open. I hadn't done the open in 3 years.
So I want to hear more about this.
No plans on doing the open. All I did was endurance training.
Yeah.
And had a great rowing season. And then Rob said, do the open just for fun. It'll be good for the gym. I said, okay. And then I had finished to qualify for the age qualifier, but also for, what was it, sectionals or?
Quarterfinals.
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 I did the quarterfinal workouts.
Okay.
But not in the, like we didn't put them in. We just
we just did them, sent them to Justin. And it's all about the endurance, like all the other stuff, it transfers right over. So I know what my red line feels like. So we base everything off of the 2K, and I consider that my ultimate red line. So that's a 147 pace on the rower. I know I could do that for 8 minutes. And then that has me, wishing I was dead. So we don't want to get to that point. I don't want to hit red line, but I know what 150 feels like. So then when I'm doing pull-ups or I'm doing thrusters, I know what 150 feels like on that almost. Like what that pace feels like off of the rower. When I'm doing burpees, I'll say, this kind of feels like a 155 pace on the burpee. And I know that I could stay there for 40 minutes. So then I can push it. And I think to myself, I'm doing the pull-ups. Okay, I'm hitting around a 147 pace.
It's so interesting that you're able to know like when you hear those numbers, for people who aren't aware, 147 pace refers to your pace that you would go to complete 500-meter row. Yeah. So when you look at the monitor and the readout, if it says 147 at that pace you're currently going, it would take you 1 minute and 47 seconds to finish a 500-meter row, for people who aren't sure. Yeah. So the difference of a 147 to a 150 on time doesn't seem like a lot, but aerobically can be very significant.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And your ability to just adjust that from 147, 150, 155 and know how that's going to impact the rest of your training or the rest of the movements within the workout, that's really significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just time on the rower, but time on the rower mindfully.
Yes, correct.
You can't just be,
no.
blow up outside of a car dealership.
Yeah, like if we have athletes that just send us, like they don't set the screen, they do a 2K, they just let it count up. We're like, oh, you didn't do your 2K, so you got to redo it now because it's not showing us anything. There's no memory screen. We can't see the breakdown of the, per 500.
Yeah.
So it's teaching the athletes that too, like how to track your progress. It's huge.
And I like that too. I like being able to see those quarterly 500-meter split times. Like that's pretty significant. If we can, you can tell if somebody goes out super hot and then just crashes and burns, or if they, So is that a lot? So you guys say, your 2K is kind of in the rowing world. That's like the king.
That's your name.
Yeah.
Everybody knows their 2K time.
Yeah. That's what they test in the Olympics on the water. That's, that's
in
the
college.
gold standard.
That's how you get in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are using the 2K time to help dictate a lot of other performance markers. When
Rob's
you're
the pace whisperer.
Say that again.
Rob's the pace whisperer.
Okay.
So the athletes before any event will say, what should I hold on this? Or what should I do here? If it's rowing, thrusters, burpees, whatever. And Rob will say, what's your 2K? If he's not familiar with them, like we haven't had them on the program for long.
Yeah.
He could tell them exactly what to hold, exactly how much faster to get. And it's like, it's magic because it works every single time.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, even in the last, what was the RowErg Invitational, Kari's last competition?
Yep.
The event that she won had the row to start. And
yes,
now
that's correct.
She's a smaller athlete going against some of these bigger girls, especially on a rower. Like, that's a big difference, especially in a short, I think it was like 21 calories or something. So she had reached out, or was it 40 cal? It was 40.
I think it was 42 for the men.
Yes. I think it was the same for the women. I believe it was 40. It was somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And she had reached out and she was like, what pace should I hold? And I told her 1,400 calories per hour. Now, what helped was my wife and I did a local team competition a couple weeks before, and I had my wife start out with a 30-calorie row at 1,600.
Okay.
So I knew Kari could hold 1,400 and still complete the work afterwards.
Yeah. So the workout we're talking about had 30 ring muscle ups, something along the lines of 40 to 50 strict handstand push-ups, some weighted step ups, some farmer's carries. Like it wasn't it was probably the longest chipper of the weekend and the most high skill event of the weekend by far. So I mean, from the handstand push-ups, you think that Kari would do pretty well, the muscle ups she would do pretty well, but then there's some like heavy awkward stuff with the farmer's carries and the it was a feed bag step up that a high step up, but and about 80 cals of rowing. And she blew that one away.
And I just knew, for her, like coming off the rower in 10th place is never a good thing. You don't want to come off that far behind.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you have to push it, and she did. She stuck to the plan. I asked her afterwards, I was like, what did you hold? She's like, I held the 1,400. And that's the type of athlete she is,
Yeah.
I'm not going to put her in a position where she's going to fail, obviously.
Yeah.
But I know that she's capable of it. And then those movements, like you said, are in her wheelhouse. So it was time to take a chance, and we did, and it worked out.
Yeah. Now, okay. So getting on to Kari a little bit. So how did you come to meet her and start working with Kari? Tell me a little bit about that relationship and then how that kind of stemmed into the Underdogs team.
So Kari did a local competition in our hometown in Oceanside. And that's how we started to see her, because she was, I think that was 2015, and she was brand new in the sport, ended up making the games that year. And then in 2016, we had reached out to her about helping her with her rowing. Went into her gym, and I always say I wish I had a video of how she was rowing, to compare what we did. But literally, I saw it, and I said, we have to stop you right now. We got to change this. And we changed it, and she's such a fast learner that she literally picked it up right away. And I never wanted to see that old form again, so I never made her do it again. But she picked up the form right away, and she saw, like, she had her coach there. It wasn't Justin at the time. It was this guy, Mike, and he was there, he was overseeing, making sure he knew that I knew what I was doing. So he watched the whole thing. He actually took the lesson with her, and they saw the value of it right away, which was great. And, since 2016, we've been working with her.
Oh, so it's been a little while now.
6 out of her 7 years, we were with her.
And that's stemmed into the Underdog. So Underdogs is kind of the training camp she trains with Justin Kotler and some of the a bunch of other games athletes. So you've started working with Underdogs, and like kind of what's your role within the Underdogs team?
Well, we actually were working with Justin also in 2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had a team for the games, Dynamics.
Yeah.
And he reached out to us to coach his team in rowing and endurance.
At the time,
he's such a smart guy.
Oh yeah.
He's a genius when it comes to organizing and training. And he knows who to reach out to put like chess, who needs to be where in order to create the best product. So we started working with him and the Dynamics team in 2016 and coached them up till the games.
Awesome.
And then Kari started working with Justin. That was easy for us. Obviously we were going to stick with Kari. And it was just seamless to, again, work with Justin.
And that at the time was the Dynamics team that was based out of your area?
Queens.
Yeah, so they were close. They were, 45-minute drive away.
Okay. Do you guys do a lot of in-person coaching outside of your gym? Do you do a lot of in-person coaching with your athletes, or is it a lot of remote coaching?
It's a lot of remote, but we actually do seminars as well.
Okay.
Obviously COVID put a halt to that, but we were going around doing seminars. We love doing that, love teaching the CrossFit community, teaching the coaches as well, how to, help their athletes.
And we try to bring a lot of our athletes into the gym as well.
Yeah.
Because everything is there. And I would love to get them out on the water, because rowing on the water really helps the form on the erg, brings a whole nother level. So when someone's on the program, I try to get them to do a stroke analysis as soon as possible. And then I try to get them here to row and ski and bike and work out with me. So I have someone to play with.
So you have somebody else to work out with.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. With we've been mostly talking about the row, but the ski and the bike, they're both unique implements. Like the RowErg, it isn't exactly like skiing, but it is.
Kind of almost reminds me of swimming.
Yeah. It's very lat driven. And Lizzy is, I'll give her all the credit in the world. She coaches that better than anybody I know. So usually when we have an athlete asking about ski, I'll handle the programming and pacing and stuff, but Lizzy's the form. Even with the rower too. Lizzy, she's the form police.
It's like a relentless pursuit for perfection.
Yeah.
With our athletes in-house.
She gets on me. I'll be in the middle of a 10K row and she's like, chest up. And I'm like, oh, okay.
You don't want to hear it, but
you need it.
Yeah.
You need it.
But it's funny when she says that and I put the chest up, I'll be holding a 150 and it goes down to a 148.
Yeah, just those little minor changes of it. That's the significance of form and rowing.
Yeah.
And as a coach, I find it's so hard to coach people in rowing form because they don't have the either body awareness or they just don't care at the time. And they're just grueling through it. And you're like, hey, like keep your chest up. Let's sit up tall, finish your pull. And they're just like, I don't want to hear this. Like you go away now and I'll just keep suffering here.
Yeah, they give you that look over the shoulder, like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And that's when I get physical.
She does. She puts her hands on the people. She's like,
I almost just spit my coffee out.
But it's true. She will literally do the rowing stroke for the person while they're on the rower. Just holding their knees down, tilting them back, and it works.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a new strategy. Just
very important.
Get physical with the athletes. Definitely can do that. With the bike erg.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on the bike erg? Now I've heard coaches talk in the past about the bike erg tying having a similar cadence to running, or being able to use it to have a similar cadence to running. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I
play with dampers.
I agree with that, because, you know, if you ever hear Lizzy coaching somebody through one of those workouts, she's constantly saying push down,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like you would be doing as you were running. So I do agree with that.
And it definitely crosses over to street cycling. We did a race. We don't even have road bikes. We rented road bikes. We got on them for the first time. When the race began, we realized at that point that they had no ability to change gears. I was so worried with that tiny little tire. But I came in second place. And it was because I've been riding the Concept 2 bike.
Yeah.
So just uphill, it felt like I had the damper on 6.
Okay.
Like a 120, 130 drag. Downhill, I couldn't pedal because we had no gears. But it really, like, it prepared me for that race.
Okay.
It is just like road cycling.
Yeah. When you say it had no gears, was it like a fixed gear or was it broken?
It was broken.
Yeah, they just the gears weren't switching. We learned that as we were literally riding out. You know, it was
we came out of the water and we jumped on the bikes and we couldn't change gears.
Yeah.
So I just
both of you.
Yeah. We rented the bikes from the same spot, so kind of made sense.
Mine had BMX pedals on it.
All right.
So crazy.
But all of these, like, you know, veteran triathletes were like, that you're making fun of our bikes as they were walking by. They were like, look at the pedals on that one, you know, like
she doesn't have clips.
And then like it was super funny in the downhills, these people, it sounded like it was like a race car flying by us. And then anytime there was an uphill, we were flying by them. So I was like, it's the bike erg.
Yeah. Being able to push through that. That, I mean, not to say the gears are different, but does it feel like a completely different type of experience, like with a high damper trying to like grind through the bike erg than it does changing the gears on a road bike?
I mean, that high damper on the bike erg is so similar to when you're in that tough gear on a road bike. At least to me, it feels that way. I'm sure there's, you know, cyclists that are like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. But, you know, for any CrossFit athlete that's not, you know, predominantly just cycling, it's going to be, the crossover is going to be there for them.
One of our coaches, Chris, is really into cycling. He loves the bike erg, and he has been trying to gather more road cyclists or triathletes to be training on those ergs in the winter, because they don't even know about it and how much it could help their training throughout the winter here in New York. It's very dangerous for them to be out on the bike.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be a game changer for them. So that's an area that we're actually looking to expand, is to get more cyclists to be training on the ergs through the winter.
Okay. Yeah, because I know cyclists have their own, it's not an erg, but like an indoor trainer.
Yeah.
Which is just essentially taking the back wheel off their bike and hooking them to that. So I mean, would you say there's different benefits to each one, or?
Yeah, I think Concept 2 is definitely going to be better.
All right.
It depends what you're trying to do. Like my older brother is a big triathlete, Ironman. So like I learned a lot of that side of endurance programming from him. So, I understand they got to get used to their equipment. They have to be used to their bike. So obviously, I think it's, they need to be on that road bike trainer.
Mhm.
But I think they should be on a bike erg, at times, because I had one of my triathletes come in and I had him do a 4K bike erg test. And, I thought based off how he rides a road bike, I was like, he's going to be in the 630s, no problem. And I think with some experience on the bike, he would, but he got 7 minutes even, which is still a good time. But based off, like, if you saw this guy's quads, you'd be like, how did he only get 7 minutes? Like,
Yeah.
and he trains, hundreds of thousands of miles a month, on the bike, but he's so used to his trainer, his road bike trainer. So it's like a completely different thing. Like, he was trying to change the damper mid ride. And I was like, no, like, you got to set it and forget it, type
Okay.
of thing. But it was an eye opener to him, because he was like, wow, that fan, once you stop pedaling, it stops. It's not like a road bike where you're going to continue to go.
Yeah. That's the one big thing about that versus the assault bike. Even like the assault bike will kind of coast for a little bit. The heavy or that I wouldn't. That's different than the Echo bike.
Yeah.
So now I don't want to go off brand here, but I want to talk about how some of this applies.
Assault runner and an assault bike at the gym too.
Yeah.
Rob does include assault runner and bike in the program because it's endurance work.
Yeah. And it's important. It really is that, that road bike you're going to see that thing everywhere now.
Well, yeah. I mean, so there's so many pieces of equipment now.
Yeah.
Endurance equipment on top of all of the movements you need to know. You got to be ready to ride an Echo bike or an assault bike or a Concept 2 bike. Like, they're all so different. How do you train the crossover? Like, is it workout specific? Is it goal specific? Like, yeah, we're going to see a lot more Echo bike now in the competitive space.
It's a little of both, and it depends on the athlete, so with Underdogs, for instance, like, I write an endurance program that it depends again on the athlete, but generally it's a row, a bike, a swim, a run, and then maybe another row, depending on what that athlete needs work on. We'll sneak in a second session. So if they need another run, we'll sneak that in. If it's a high-level CrossFit athlete, they may be doing 2 rows, 2 runs, and then 1 of everything else. It depends on what we could fit in the week with the rest of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then me and Justin being on the same page is huge, because I'll say, Justin, look, I have a tough row for them this week. Can you add in another row in a WOD? Because I think that's very important to see the crossover, not just do rowing specific things. Like, you have to be able to row in a workout. So or combining the two. Like, I like to do EMOMs where it's 1 minute they're doing 18 calories on the assault bike, 1 minute they're doing 18 calories on a ski, and they'll do that for 16 minutes.
Okay.
Those are pretty terrible.
I was going to say those are not easy numbers to hit.
No. But it depends on the athlete. So, for my general program, I'll put, 12 to 15 for the ski.
Okay.
And then for the bike, maybe I'll put 15 to 18.
Yeah.
And then for the women, maybe 10 to 12, and so on.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's time on the machine.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to get better at the assault bike or Echo bike, you need to spend some time on there.
Yeah.
When I re-injured my foot again and could only bike. So I went on to the assault bike program, and the first 4 were, they were really bad. I didn't know yet where I should start in terms and then to finish stronger. And I hate failing sessions. So if I start too fast and then I can't maintain that speed or number of calories per interval, and I fail the set, I feel terrible about myself.
I mean,
you also feel like when you die in a set, like you just feel so defeated personally.
Yeah.
So, like it wasn't until like my 4th session where I really understood where I could start, where I could get faster. and how to control that speed on the bike. So it was about 4 sessions. Then I got a hold of it.
But with the assault bike too, it's very important. Like if you start a workout out, you a high level CrossFitter, if you did a 20 cal max effort, that could ruin the whole workout.
Oh yeah.
So, but if okay, I could stay at 74 RPM, I'm still going to finish with these guys, but I'm going to be able to work. It's vital to the success of the rest of the workout.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned RPM there, and I was just thinking, like, how do you guys like to look at? I mean, we're looking at different implements here, but how do you like to judge like how an athlete performs on the bike? Are we looking at RPM? Are you looking at watts? Like bike?
So
assault bike's different than Concept 2. I know that too.
Yeah. So with the bike erg, we treat it just like the RowErg. So it's 2K for the rower. For the bike, it's your 4K, and we'll work off there. So it's your pace per 1,000 on that instead of pace per 500. Yeah. But with the assault bike or the Rogue Echo bike, I like RPM more than watts. Yeah. Because that watts, it can really jump around, and I think that could drain you mentally. Yeah. So I like RPM because, if I tell you to hold, 320 watts, right? And let's just say it's going 290. Now you're panicking, but maybe your RPM is just like 1 or 2 off, and that's okay. You're not going to panic as much. You're going to be like, okay, I'm right on, push down a little harder, let's speed up the RPM. Where I feel like with the watts, and some coaches program it that way, and that's fine. That's up to them. But I feel like it could create a panic, which is never a good thing when you need to be as relaxed as possible.
Okay. I find it easier myself to ride a bike and pay attention to the RPM, or ride the assault bike anyways. Yeah. Pay attention to the RPM. I feel like that's just mentally, that's how I know how to track it. I haven't paid attention to watts. Yeah. So when people start talking to me in watts, I'm like, I don't do like 1,500 watts. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't pay attention to it on the rower or any of the bikes. It's, the RPM to me, it's just a simpler number. And if I say hold between 50 and 55, it's easier for somebody to do that than me saying hold the watts. They're going to get confused. They're going to panic. Sorry about the puppies here.
No, it's all good. I can hear a little growling going on there.
It's the little guy. The little guy is the growling.
He's got like Napoleon complex.
Awesome. So you guys are kind of specialty coaches within the sport, but at the same time, it's such a huge part of the sport as being, endurance and having that aerobic base. How do you guys see yourself fitting in, and how do you see yourself fitting into the bigger ecosystem of the sport kind of going forward? Like, do you think that a specialty coach, of your nature will become more important? Like, how do you guys see that?
Obviously, I think it's important because it's what I do. But, besides that, like, I think there's more to just being like a specialty coach, because are you going to have a running coach, a rowing coach, a swimming coach? Like, now there's too many, chefs in the kitchen type of thing. Yeah. So I think finding a specialty coach that is well-versed in all of it, that's to me, that's a difference maker.
I like the name drop there. Thank you. I appreciate that. No, and that's kind of what I was thinking is there's so many disciplines now. Everybody has, what are they going to have? 15 coaches?
Yeah.
No, but I think CrossFit's like a 3-headed beast. So you need your endurance, a super strong base. And I think that's the most important part.
Yeah.
And then you need strength. So weightlifting specialist, and then gymnastics. You need a gymnastics specialist. So those are your 3 specialists, and then an overall coach that can put all of that together for your athlete.
Yeah.
And that's like on a higher level.
Yeah. And the egos have to be in check, obviously.
I mean, like, the athlete needs to be willing to learn.
Yeah. And athletes, I feel like there's some who are very open and receptive to
those are going to be your better athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like in the, the future of the sport, we're seeing such high demand for performance in each discipline,
Yeah.
even looking at the handstand event this year, the handstand walking event, it's like, oh, we're sprinting over obstacles now.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
the
not just get it
athletes are
done.
doing it.
Yeah.
The athletes are pushing the limit.
Yeah.
So the better they become, the more demand is going to be put on the athlete.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, even with the Masters, they made Lizzy do, what was it, 30 feet unbroken? Like
40 something.
42.
Yeah. It was,
42. I was like, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, not taking away from anything that the Masters were given. It's incredible the fact that they had the 50-plus-year-old divisions doing unbroken segments of handstand walking in like 15 feet minimums.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But the better they get, the more they're going to be demanded of.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. It's just crazy to think of how far the sport has come, where we're looking at, the 50-plus divisions going, let's get them to do some bar muscle ups and then handstand walk. And then we'll throw in some pistols in there too.
Yeah.
Like, this sport is evolving, and you're right. The athletes are pushing the boundaries so much that it's unbelievable to think about that. Where like, if you look back 20 years, like people look at a bar muscle up. Imagine somebody 20 years ago looks at the Masters division of the CrossFit Games this year. Like, that's more difficult stuff than they were doing at the CrossFit Games 10 years ago.
Yeah.
For the individuals.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And the amount of work they're doing too, the amount of events, it's unbelievable.
It was fun to watch some of those other divisions, the Masters, and it was nice to see the adaptive getting in there this year as well. It was really, really awesome event to watch.
Yeah.
Very inspirational.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For you guys, what do you guys have coming up in the next little bit here? I know we're getting into the holidays, but what do you guys have coming up? Do you have any seminars or anything coming?
We have a big race on the 19th. We're going to do a 2K in-house. So we'll be able to hook up all the monitors and have it on the big screen. We're also going to host, because Crash Bees this year, Nationals, is virtual. So we're going to have a lot of our athletes come to the gym and we'll race there on our heat times virtual.
Okay. Can you just explain what that is for people who aren't sure?
Crash Bees?
Yes.
Well, it's a nationals race. So everybody indoor race. And it usually happens in Boston at the Agnes Arena. Agnes Arena.
It's usually a really big event. Like for years, it was actually the World Championships. They would hold it every year at Crash Bees in Boston. But now Crash Bees transferred into U.S. Nationals. And it's a 2K race. There's a couple of team events as well. Mm-hmm. But there's all different divisions. There's lightweight, heavyweight.
It's such an incredible experience. The arena is filled with ergs. So probably 1,000 ergs. And then there's high school teams, college teams, masters divisions. It's just an incredible event. And lightweight, heavyweight.
Okay. And Lizzy's the defending champ in the lightweight category. So we're going back for a repeat.
So since they are not doing it in-house at the arena this year, it's virtual. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to kind of create that same environment. So we're going to host it at the gym.
So when you say it's virtual, is it like, how do you connect to their system? Do you have to connect to their system? Is it just take pictures, submit it, prove that you did it on that date?
You are live.
Yeah. So you plug your computer into the back of the monitor.
Yep.
Then they take over your monitor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have your heat time is 8 a.m. So you have to hook up an hour before. You have to have good Wi-Fi. And then your computer is connected to your monitor. And then your monitor will say, ready, set, go. And then on your computer screen, it's you rowing with all your competitors. And you could see your split times. And, well, other people could see your split times. You can't see anything. You're like,
You just You just go. But when it's live, are you looking at anybody else while you're going, or you're just head down and going?
Me personally, I'm not looking at anything.
Okay.
But for me, when I'm racing, like I'm looking at exactly the split I'm pulling. Lizzy just like she has such a good feel for what the piece feels like. So it's like I feel like she could close her eyes and she's gonna pull the number that we
I think a lot of times my eyes are closed during a race.
But it works. It works. So, you know, a little more about last year, actually, like how I tricked her into going to the CrossFit Games. You know, she was always rowing in these big competitions as a heavyweight, but it was like she's not really a true heavyweight, but there's two divisions. It's 135 or under for lightweight, and then anything else is heavyweight. So one year she was 137, and the lady was like, "You're in the wrong division," you know. And then, then she was around, you know, 145, 150, and we were like, "Let's get you down to lightweight, and let's go after it this year. Let's see what we could do." So it started like, you know, she was still doing CrossFit style workouts. And we actually, with COVID, we started filming a lot of the class workouts.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I tricked her into like getting into shape. I would have her do her rowing workout. And then I'd say, "Oh, we got a film today." And then she would do another workout. And then like, "Oh, let's throw in some skill work." And then she would do that. So like, I knew she was ready. She was lightweight. She was feeling good. We qualified for Worlds, which was virtual as well. And World Championships was a little different because it was, you know, only a few people qualified for that event.
Yeah.
And she ended up taking second place there.
That's amazing.
And, you know, it was a PR 2K. I think she ended up hitting like 3 or 4 PRs throughout the season. And then the season was over, and the season literally ended like the week that the Open started. I think it was the same weekend. And I was like, I think World Championships was the same weekend or
as the first workout.
Yeah. So I was like, "We're going to do the first workout. Let's just sign up. Let's see." And it worked out.
So, I mean, we just brushed over that, but you finished at finished second at the World Indoor Championships for rowing in the lightweight division. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And the fact that you hit multiple PRs over the course of one season is also pretty mind-blowing to me, because you're such like a well-trained and highly trained athlete that it's not like you're new to the erg and you're like, "Oh, okay, I did 2K," and then like 2 months later you do your second 2K and you get a PR.
Yeah.
I know, it was like the more weight I lost, the faster I got.
And the funny thing about like hitting the PRs, you know, the 2K could be very mental for a lot of rowers, you know, even your Olympians. Like, it's a very mental test. I wrote a workout. It started with a 2K and ended with a 2K, and got her to PR in that first 2K. And then it was like, what was the middle part? It was terrible.
Oh, it was disgusting. It was like DT with bar muscle ups.
Okay, so let's go back. 2K, you hit a PR time. Then you do DT, and then you throw in some bar muscle ups into DT. So DT,
every round.
People don't know. Okay, so DT, 12 deadlifts, 9 hang cleans, 6 shouldered overhead. Throw in how many bar muscle ups? 5 bar muscle ups. Okay, so we just did another, 25 bar muscle ups on top of the DT work, and then another 2K row.
Yeah.
And then roughly, what was your split from the first 2K to the last 2K?
So the first 2K, she hit like a 7:24 time.
Okay.
Which was a 1 second PR.
Okay.
At the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my second one, I held a 155 split.
Yeah. So she was still under, way under that 8-minute mark on the second 2K.
But it was like the most disgusting workout in the world. It was so disgusting.
Yeah, that's gross.
But I knew I know her as an athlete, and like that's why I like to get to know my athletes, because I knew she'd be worried about that middle part so much.
Yeah.
That when she got started in 2K, if I felt like she was on pace, I would push her. If I felt like she was just gaming it for the rest of the workout, I'd let her hold back. But I saw she had that good start, and I was like, let's just hold it and see. And then she did.
And then And I
That's
was
impressive.
it was a mental hurdle. I felt like if I could hold that time, that pace, and still get off and do all that work, that I could push harder if it was just a 2K.
Mm-hmm.
So then my next 2K was a 7:18.
Yeah.
And then my 2K after that was a 7:15. And then I got it down to 7:13.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Good for you.
That was a great season.
It was fun.
It was a great season.
That's incredible. Great job. And so second at Worlds, CrossFit Games, all in the same year.
Yep. First U.S.
And
Nationals.
I won Crash Bees.
Yeah.
And
last year. Yeah.
How could I forget?
Yeah.
That's so. I mean, that speaks to the type of programming you do and the level of capacity that you have, that you can transfer those over. So I don't want to say easily, but so well.
Yeah. Yeah, and she wasn't a gymnast growing up, so like she doesn't have that background. She wasn't a weightlifter growing up, so like she has to work hard at that stuff, and she does. But like we use that engine as like we're gonna rely on this.
Yeah,
we're gonna do the work and the other stuff, and hopefully, the end result is where we want it.
That makes me think so much more about the type of programming that I do and that. Any quick tips for people who would, want to improve on the erg? Is there things, not to give away all the secret sauce, but a couple things for them to think about while they're on their ergs?
I would say the form, and Lizzy will go more into that, but that's huge.
I mean, form definitely comes first. I say to our athletes at the gym, it's form, power, and speed. Okay. It's like triage.
Yeah.
And then time on the erg. Mm-hmm. You have to spend time on the erg mindfully.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's no magic pill.
You got to know your numbers, and you got to know, if my 2K pace is 2 minutes, then, for 30 minutes, I should be able to hold a 2:12, So when you're in a workout that's, that time domain, like Lizzy, you may not be in tune with the exact numbers that you're holding while you're doing burpees, but you may say, oh, this kind of feels like that row I was doing. I could push a little harder in the last 5 minutes like I did on that 30-minute row.
Awesome. Things for people to think about. Now, if they want to find out more about coaching, and if they want to know how they can get a hold of you guys, where can they find you?
On Instagram at Concept Fitness NY.
Okay.
And
then we got, what's your Lizzy? Yep. LizzyCarson.row.
Row.
Yeah.
And then Rob for your programming.
Carson.
Is it through you?
EBC, but I do everything through the gym's website. So if you went on the Concept Fitness NY, you can find us through there. And then, through Underdogs as well. Like we have programs up with them to improve your 2K, your assault bike. We have some more stuff in the works. We have a mile run program with them as well. And then we have some other stuff that will be coming out for the ski, for the bike erg.
The Murph program.
Yeah. We're going to have a lot of cool things with Underdogs. And, as well as coaching the endurance stuff, like I do like the CrossFit, side of it too. So like I have my CrossFit level 1 and, I love coaching my wife. So like I obviously use Justin, I'm like, all right, I have Lizzy doing this. What do you think? And then he's been mentoring me in that way, which is great because I just love coaching. I actually coach ice hockey as well. I just anything coaching I love.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your time. And hopefully everyone go check out the Engine by Carson program, either on their Instagram page or Concept Fitness NY, Underdog Athletics. Guys, this has been the Difference Maker. Difference Makers. I appreciate your time, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hit that like button and subscribe down below for more content coming soon from WODProof.